Welcome, dear students, to this class on the short story The Poisoned Bread by Bandhu Madhav. Bandhu Madhav belongs to the Marathi Dalit community, and he voices the need for education in his works. The short story The Poisoned Bread, in this also he gives importance to the need for education and how education will save the Dalit community from the oppression and caste discrimination. The main characters in this short story are grandpa, one this that is Ethelya Aja, grandpa of Mahadeva, the main protagonist of the short story. So when the story is happening, this Mahadeva is a young man, and he is reflecting on the harvest that happened 12 years ago. It's in the form of flashback. So he thinks about his grandpa, an incident that changed his life and his grandpa's, and how he lost his life, his grandpa. So his grandpa one day brought this young Madeva to a winnowing field, so that he thought that a field of the landlord Babu Patel. So he thought that he expected to get more corn or more bread as a reward. So that is how he came to this field, this Madeva and the grandpa. But on the contrary, what happened was they were denied bread, denied their wages due to the behavior of Madeva. Madeva was very stubborn, rebellious. He couldn't stand how Babu Patel abused his grandpa, and ultimately that incident took the life of his grandfather. So this is the gist of the story. And on the deathbed also, this grandfather talks about the need for education to earn bread, not slaving for a landlord, for someone else, but you need to get education and to earn your wages, earn your bread. You need to leave this poisoned bread from your mouth, from your family, and only education will help you to do that. So we'll right away go to the short story. Now it's very interesting. It's in the form of flashback. So the story opens during a harvest time, and this man, young man Madeva, is taken back to a harvest time 12 years ago. Come harvest time, with its operations of winnowing and sifting, when the birds whirl in the sky, my heart bleeds like a wounded bird as I recall the begone harvest of 12 years ago, when I had gone to meet my grandfather, Ethelya Aja, to us at Kapad. So, the two characters, Mahadeva and the grandfather, Ethelya Aja. So he is recalling the harvest 12 years ago. That day, as usual, Grandpa Ethelya took me with him as he went out looking for a job of winnowing and threading out the corn at the threshing floor. As a matter of fact, he intended to beg for me a cucumber or a marrow or a few peanuts, if possible, at one of the farms. And by getting me to assist him, he hoped to get a slightly larger share of the corn and a few years of java for us. So, right from the beginning, we are introduced to the struggle and the suffering of the Dalit community. So they were not given land. They never owned land. They couldn't farm anything. They couldn't grow anything. So they were at the mercy of the landlords, who gave some corn or rice or wheat or jowar instead of the work they have given. So one day, when this young boy Madeva went to meet his grandfather, he was taken along with this grandfather. Take him along to a winnowing field so that he will get a little more corn or jowar. We stopped at the threshing floor. There, tidying a pile of disheveled ears of corn, was Babu Patel. So now we are introduced to the next character, that is Babu Patel. Grandpa approached Patel and saluted him with a jar. Acknowledging Grandpa's salute like a swaggering Maharaja, Babu Patel said, "Hey, what brings you here at such an early hour? Hope you haven't come here with your mind set on evil. For don't they say, an encounter with a Mahar in the morning and you are doomed for good." So in the words of from the words of Babu Patel, we get to know how this group is treated, this particular community is treated by others. They are considered as inauspicious, or having an encounter with a Dalit man is considered to be a bad omen. And he says, Why have you come here at this early hour? Grandpa displayed no reaction to Babu Patel's insolence. On the contrary, he appeared extremely meek and with the utmost respect said to Patel, "Why do you say that, Anna? I am your slave. I have come to you on purpose on hearing of the operations of your threshing floor. My lord is our bread giver, and we find it a privilege to beg for our share of corn, master. I am your begging mother, and feel proud to be so." So, we see the behavior of this grandpa who is very meek and submissive, who has accepted his fate of suffering, and he thinks that, they are born of this community and they are doomed to suffer. And he is okay with it and says, "You are a bread giver." And with due respect, he speaks to this landlord who is very insolent and very arrogant towards this grandfather. But grandfather's humble plea had the reverse effect on Babu Patel, who turned more sarcastic. "Don't give me that line. You are no longer the Mahar, Mangs of the good old days, to beg for your share of the corn. You are now Harijans. You have even started claiming equality, so I was told, eating and drinking with us at the city hotels. So there remains absolutely no difference between us, does there? Now that you are our peers, tell me, why do you still beg for a share of the corn?" So now we get to know what happens after the independence. After the independence, the Dalit community, they were renamed as Harijans, and with the constitution and with the reforms, many reforms were made. But still, in reality, the Dalit community, they are still suffering and they are struggling for their livelihood. So we find this grandfather still suffering and struggling for the daily bread. And then another thing that we get to know from the words of the grandpa is that in the city hotels, now people claim equality. The upper caste and the lower caste, they can sit together and eat in city hotels. And he is very much annoyed with this fact, and he says, God has created two different communities, and now you are claiming equality and you are sitting with us to eat. In olden times, the upper caste community never used to sit with the lower caste community to eat, or they don't mingle with each other. So now you have started claiming equality, and then why are you still begging for your share? And yet I could see no adverse effect on Babu's attack on grandpa. In fact, I discerned a sense of pride in him as he straightened himself and said, "How could you say that, Anna? This Etalia is certainly not one of those claiming equality. How can one, in that case, account for God's creating religion and caste?" So here again we find grandpa very meek and submissive, and accepting this his status as a lower status of his caste, and says, God has created religion and caste, and we need to accept it. I belong to this caste and you are from that caste, and we need to accept it. I am not one of those Maoists or Harijans who is claiming equality. And how could you say that, Anna? Come on, don't you know that the rain god got enraged because of you? The Mahas and the Mangs have profaned religion, and abandoning caste have defiled Lord Vithoba of Pandarpur. How else can you account for the drying up of the Chandrabhaga river? Babu Patel added insult to injury. To add insult to injury, Babu Patel says, it is because of you guys, these communities, Mahas and Mangs, these Dalit community, that this river has dried up, and the rain god refused to give rain to that land, because they defiled their temple. So in olden days, the Dalit community were denied entry to the temples. So it is big, and after the reforms, they started they got entry to the temples. And what happens is that this Babu Patel blames them for the drying of the river and for the drought of that area. I could take it no more. I felt my cheeks burning, but I quelled my temper, and cutting Babu Patel short in the middle of his fiery tirade, burst out, "Patel, will you kindly tell me what you meant when you accused us of forgetting religion, abandoning our caste, and of polluting the God? And if a religion can't tolerate one human being, treating another simply as a human being, what's the use of such an inhuman religion? And if our mere touch pollutes the gods, why were the Mahas and Mangs created at all? And who, may I know, who indeed created them? And would you please tell me the name of the God whom Mahas and Mangs can claim as their own? So he couldn't control anymore. This Mahadeva, this young boy, he in an outburst, he cut short Babu Patel and said, why are you talking about such a religion and such a God who created Mahar and Mangs and everybody? If they can't, if the touch of this particular community pollutes the God, then how come they created, how come these gods created this particular community? How is such a religion operates, to which actually gives permission to treat another human being as a slave, as a, in a very inhuman way. My retort made Babu Patel wild. I would address him simply as Patel, whereas the rest of our clan called him Anna or elder brother. So again, another instance where which actually instigated Babu Patel. He was called as a bread giver, as an Anna, an elder brother, but Mahadeva just called him, addressed him as Patel. And to top it all, Mahar was answering him back. He's talking back to this man, this landlord, while an anger shook him. And he screamed at me, look at that snot-nosed brat. He can't even keep his nose clean, and yet has the audacity to talk back to me. Atalya, whose good for nothing whelp have you brought with you? So who is this young boy, who is talking back to me? The violent rage of Babu Patel sent Grandpa into a panic. Knowing too well that, in a fit of temper, Babu Patel was capable of even committing murder, he started shaking violently. In a voice stricken with fear and in the humblest of tones, therefore, Grandpa replied, he is my eldest daughter's son from Sangalwadi. He is too young to know how to speak to his elders. He is city bred and has learned to read and write. So that is one that made Babu Patel more angry. This young boy can read and write. Need he be so impertinent just because he knows how to read and write? And mind you, even if a Mahar or man gets educated, no one will ever call him a Brahmin. A Mahar is a Mahar, even he passes LLB and becomes a barrister. You should know the story of Chokala Mela. Was he let into the temple by Vidapa of Pandarpur? Why, I ask you, has Chokamala being kept at the foot of the temple? One should always keep one's own position. So he says, even if you get education, even if you get a job, even if you become a barrister, even if you are past LLB, you are still a Mahar, you are still a Dalit person, you are from a different community. And he gives an example of the one person, Chokamala, who was kept at the foot of the temple because he was denied entry into the temple because of the caste. Having been brought up in the city of Sankley, I was a little bolder than the rest of my clan. So I said to Patel, what's this position you are talking about, Patel? And whose position? At my retort, Patel exploded. Look here, boy, simply because you have had a little education, don't think you can teach me. You should know that God intended to have a definite hierarchy when he created the Brahmin, the Maratha, the fisherman, the beaver, the weaver, and the Mahar, Mang, the Dor, the cobbler, in that order. Everyone must abide by this scheme and act accordingly. Put every man in his proper place, as they wisely say. A chapel is never worshipped in place of God, is it? He paused. So he gives another explanation to Mahadeva about the need to abide with the hierarchy of the religion and caste. God created different castes and gave them different positions. Even if you are educated, you won't be called a Brahmin. So there are different different caste, people of different communities and castes. And you cannot claim the place of another caste, even if you are educated. I was determined to give tit for tat. So you think you can treat us like your footwear, but are we really like that? Aren't we also made of the same flesh and blood as the rest of you? We too are born after 9 months in our mother's womb. Isn't it logical then? I enter rhetorically that basically there is hardly any difference between us. So again, he cannot stop his words. This young boy Mahadeva says, we are all of same blood, flesh and blood. We are all human beings. There is no difference between us. Atalya, have you come here to work or to quarrel with me? If you and your grandson are so well off, why in the first place you come to beg, come to me to beg? get lost. A little learning doesn't give this young boy, to doesn't allow this young boy to talk back to me. You need to teach this young boy his position. Understand? At this, Grandpa Atila literally fell at the feet of Babu Patel and appealed to him with tears in his eyes. Don't, please, not. Please don't. He is a tiny tot, just a boy. Please don't take him seriously. He hasn't seen enough of the world and doesn't know how to speak to his elders. And then turning to me, he chided, Madeva, don't just stand there gaping at Anna. Pick up the grubbing hoe and start work. So this man, this Atilya Aja, the grandfather, he was literally falling at the feet of this landlord and saying, and he's pleading for his grandson. I felt helpless and dumbfounded as he handed me the hoe. The next moment, I set to work with my head bent low, moving the grubbing hoe in the heap of this cone. Somehow, I managed to suppress my anger. Babu Patel was standing close by, watching us for some time. After a while, he left, but not before warning us. Finish the job before I return from the breakfast. We'll yoke the bullocks for the winnowing in the evening. Hurry up. Don't you know? You have to work hard if you want your share of corn. We then seriously yoked ourselves together for the work at hand.